G'day guys, this is Holy Critic signing in for a new episode of Top 5. And today I'm super excited to talk about the topic of horror movies. Yes, I've finally gotten around to it. Mainly because I couldn't be less interested. In modern horror movies, that is. Because for the better part of the last decade, I should say whenever the 21st century rolled around, we have been shoveled nothing but PG-13 ghosts and goblins garbage that I've grown thin on, I'm sure you've also grown thin on, and it sucked any excitement out of the latest horror movie releases. But I have been inspired to make this top 5 list because I think 2019 is shaping up to be the best year in horror in recent memory, to be honest, for a couple of big reasons. We are actually seeing the return because studios who are making these movies are now realizing this is what audiences have been craving, and that is the return to old school R-rated, let me repeat, R-rated horror. You know, the golden era, the 70s and 80s, when movies were actually R-rated because they were horrifying to watch. They scared you. I don't get scared by sanitized violence. Real life has real violence, and we're going to see plentiful amounts of that this year. And we're also seeing the return of the director. The horror director, I should add. Remember the days of Stephen King? Remember the days of John Carpenter? Remember the days of Toby Hooper and Wes Craven? We have been sorely starved of dedicated horror directors. And speaking of horror directors, I've decided to start out this list in 5th position with a movie from a guy who I originally remember as a comedic actor and writer on the hit show Mad TV. And a couple of years ago, Jordan Peele decided to transition into directing horror films, and he had a big hit with the movie Get Out, which focused on the experiences of a black man meeting the parents of his white girlfriend. And Jordan Peele's really perceptive ability to highlight all the fears around conforming to a predominantly white society with accepted practices, accepted behaviors that might actually be foreign to a lot of black people. And he was able to he was adept at really highlighting those fears and creating almost a horror comedy. And this year, he's followed that movie up with another one called Us, which is releasing in maybe another week or so. And in the movie Us, Jordan Peele does a very rare thing, and that is focus on the intrinsic threat. Now, if you think about it, most horror movies are based on extrinsic threats, you know, the monster that comes out of the darkness to get you. But Jordan Peele's Us looks at the intrinsic threat, meaning our own fears, our own self-doubts, our own conjured up thoughts of negativity in our lives projected around us, the things that only we can see. And Us follows a family fight against almost a doppelganger family that look exactly like them, but who are almost trying to take their position. So I don't know what the whole movie is going to be about, but it looks completely fascinating. I definitely think you should check it out. Alright, so in 4th spot, I've picked Stephen King's Pet Sematary, and this kind of relates back to my original point about the return to old school horror. I mean, what kid's childhood wouldn't be complete without a Stephen King movie to haunt them? And when it comes to Pet Sematary, at about the age of 11 or 12, I watched the original 1989 version, and that ever since then, I've been hooked on horror movies. And when it comes to this movie, what really scared me was that it tapped into my primal fear of death. And when I was a kid, I always worried about what would happen when my parents passed away. I mean, how would I cope with it? And Pet Sematary kind of explores that topic in a way that exhibits how our soul matters more than just our physical body. Because when the people in this movie, and in some cases pets, get brought back to life, they're not the same. They might look the same, they might be inhabiting the same decaying body, but they're missing one crucial component, and that is the soul. And I think Pet Sematary is one of the first movies. I know there's always been zombie movies, but Pet Sematary was the first movie to really explore that topic of life beyond the grave and what comes next. And Stephen King is a great writer and director. He has directed movies. So I'm definitely excited to watch this movie, and especially with the fact that it's got a good cast. It's got the Australian actor Jason Clarke and John Lithgow in it. So how can you go wrong with those two? So moving on to third spot is a movie that caught my attention, not because of the subject matter, which it does interest me, but the main actress, Octavia Spencer, is actually taking her turn at a villainous role, which is quite surprising because she's got, in my view, a rather kind, sort of compassionate face. And for her ability to be able to transition into a darker, sinister person with more malevolent intentions has drawn my attention. And the movie Mar, she plays the character Mar, that's what she's referred to, at least in the trailer, initially looks friendly. She takes in these young kids who want to have a party in her basement, but behind the scenes, she's hiding something. She's pulling some strings, and the trailer kind of plays on that, her ability to kind of get deeper into the lives of these kids who she's befriended, and her intentions grow ever darker as the movie will progress. So I want to watch it just on her performance. I've always liked the hero playing the villain. Think Robin Williams in the movie Insomnia with Al Pacino, or in the movie 1 Hour Photo, which is, he played a really creepy stalker in that movie. I love it when people that you think are only going to play one type of character transition into a totally different character. It's fascinating to watch, and Ma is coming out in, May, June? I'm definitely going to be going to cinemas to watch that one. It looks good. Okay, so my choice for second spot will come as no surprise to any of you who've seen the thumbnail of this video, but how could I not include It Chapter 2, the follow-up film to Andy Muschietti's 2017 classic, in my view, which was a complete revelation, and even Stephen King backed the project, so he obviously thought it was a faithful adaptation to his book, within reason, within movie standards, I suppose. But I'm excited to see It Chapter 2 because we're now going to get the opportunity to see the Losers Club grown up 27 years later, having to return to Derry, Maine to confront this childhood menace, which is, Pennywise the Clown. It'll be interesting to see whether the director rights the wrongs of the past, because if you've seen the 1990 version of the film, a lot of you will agree that the first part was much better than the second. The second kind of felt flat. It didn't live up to the expectation that it was building up to. So I'm hoping that the director will improve or make additions or remove certain parts which make it less believable. And I have faith in the project because I see that James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain have signed on, and they're not known for signing on for any old piece of trash. So I'm excited. I've got hope, and I just can't wait to September. It's a long time away, but I'll definitely go into the cinemas for this one, and I think you should too. All right, so we finally reached my number one pick, and a lot of you are going to be surprised by this selection, primarily because you've never heard of this movie before, but the reason I picked Midsommar as the must-see horror movie of 2019 is because of the director, who I highly admire and respect in Ari Aster. Now, if you don't know who he is, you might remember that there was a film last year called Hereditary, which starred Toni Collette and Gabriel Byrne. And that was his directorial debut. And in the movie, it follows a woman's descent into madness as she struggles to cope with the grief of her mother's passing. And in the movie, as she descends deeper and deeper into the madness, she begins to uncover a conspiracy, a cult, a secret satanic cult that's trying to orchestrate events in her life and recruit her children. which is really, really creepy. And I love themes around cult movements, like Rosemary's Baby is one example. But what separates Hereditary from all the other B-movie schlocky pieces of crap horror movie is that Ari Aster skirts the line of ambiguity throughout the film. You never quite believe she's fully mad, but then you find it really hard to believe that a satanic cult could exist, at least in the context of the movie. So I think Midsommar is going to follow the same type of vein as that movie, because in Midsommar, we get a young couple joining a new age cult. At least in the trailer, it shows this. And as things transpire in the movie, things start to go pear-shaped, and they want to get out, but they're finding it harder and harder to escape. So I'm really, really hoping it's a solid follow-up, because Ari Aster is a great director. I believe Hereditary is one of the greatest horror movies of the 21st century. It ranks right up there in my opinion. And I'm hoping Midsommar can top it. It's going to be hard, but I highly recommend and highly suggest that you go see Midsommar and encourage independent directors like Ari Aster. You will not regret this one, I hope. Okay guys, so that's my list of top 5 horror movies to see in 2019. I really hope you've enjoyed watching, and please feel free to leave a comment about whether you agree or disagree with my selections. I love reading all your comments. And finally, please make sure you leave a big thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed watching it, and make sure you subscribe on the left of screen so you never miss one of my latest videos. But for now guys, God bless, stay safe, and this is Holy Critic, signing out.